Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really powerful. We're exploring a framework that's designed to just completely strip away the fluff. We're not talking about some drawn-out, exhausting plan or a temporary hype session. No, we're looking at a complete, absolutely no excuses system reset that takes place over just one single day. We're drawing from this fascinating concept that is built to totally reboot your mind, your energy, and honestly, the entire direction of your life in just 24 hours. But right off the bat, the source material throws down a major condition. This framework, it's really only built for those who are ready to be ruthlessly, brutally honest with themselves for one whole day.
Usually, when we want to change our lives, we look for a 21-day challenge, right? Or maybe a 90-day plan, or some fiery motivational speech. But let's be real for a second. Those things often just make you feel good in the moment, and then you completely forget about them by next Tuesday. The psychology here is that those 21-day challenges usually rely on external motivation, and external motivation is super fleeting. What we're exploring today is a one-day honest reset. It's a radical, single-day intervention relying entirely on internal disruption. We aren't here just to get a quick hit of dopamine or to feel warm and fuzzy temporarily. This framework is aiming to completely reset your system from the inside out.
And that brings us to a really core tenet of this whole framework. The source material presents this massive tough love realization, and honestly, it's probably the hardest pill to swallow. It suggests that when we feel stuck in life, it's not because we're weak, it's because we are literally lying to ourselves. Think about that. We're stuck because we just aren't ready to face ourselves. The concept argues that when we feel totally paralyzed in our progress, it's almost always a product of self-deception and avoiding reality. So today's explainer is really about breaking down that cycle of avoidance and seeing exactly how this 24-hour intervention tries to fix it. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the exact roadmap for this 24-hour reset. We start the morning with total disconnection. We move through the day by plugging in a very specific 60-minute routine, and then we wrap it all up at 9 p.m. with a heavy reality check. Step 1. The wake-up call and disconnection. So the very first thing you do when your chosen day begins is completely upend your normal default behavior. This phase of absolute disconnection sets the tone for the entire 24 hours. And honestly, the source material notes that this is exactly where most people fail. It's tough. Here are the strict rules. You put your phone aside. You stop scrolling entirely. No TV shows, no streaming, the whole shebang is gone. It's just going to be you and your mind. Now, you need to understand this up front. It is going to feel uncomfortable. It will be incredibly boring. Your hand will literally itch to grab your phone just to check one message or scroll for 1 minute. But cutting out that noise is exactly the point. When your brain is finally deprived of that cheap, constant dopamine from scrolling, it's forced to confront buried thoughts. When the endless flow of useless information and notifications stops, your brain actually wakes up and reveals its true power. All those capabilities that usually get buried under the cognitive overload of everyday life, they finally get a chance to breathe.
Step 2. Confronting the mirror.
Okay, now the framework asks you to do something pretty intense. You stand in your room in total silence right in front of a mirror. And look, we aren't doing positive affirmations here, and we aren't playing soft background music. When you stand in front of that mirror in pure silence, you stop just looking at your physical face. You actually start getting closer to the hidden realities inside you. This is the exact moment where the excuses, the showing off, and all those fake personas you've built for other people slowly start to crumble. As you look yourself dead in the eyes, you ask yourself this one specific question. What am I trying to become in my life? What am I doing? Notice that silence? That's what you need to feel. You don't even need to speak the answer out loud. You just have to feel it. Be completely honest. The answer usually won't come instantly, but it's going to create a stir in your heart. It will feel heavy, maybe a bit awkward, But that exact feeling is what tells you exactly where you have been compromising on your own life.
Step 3, naming your avoided truths. Now we get tangible. If you've made it this far into the reset day, the framework suggests this will be your most important moment. The system asks you to physically grab a notebook and write down the one truth, the one habit, or the one decision that you know you have been desperately avoiding. You know the one, the thing you keep pushing off until tomorrow. Let's look at how this plays out in the real world. Maybe it's that diet plan you constantly say you'll start on Monday, but funny enough, Monday never actually arrives. Or maybe it's a strict study routine you've been putting off by convincing yourself, oh, I work better under last-minute pressure, right? Or perhaps you're avoiding learning a specific skill you know you absolutely need for your career, constantly telling yourself you just don't have the time. Whatever it is, you need to identify it. Pinpoint that specific avoided problem and write it down in clear, undeniable words.
Why do we do this? Well, writing it down on a piece of paper doesn't magically solve the problem for you, obviously, but it accomplishes two vital things. First, it gives you absolute clarity. Second, you finally accept the problem. And as the source material beautifully points out, when you accept the problem, you stop ignoring it. It's a real game changer. This physical act forces an undeniable self-honesty that you literally cannot just brush aside.
So the crucial point is this formula right here. Acceptance equals the beginning of change. Until you are honest with yourself and speak the truth to yourself, no external system or motivation is ever going to work. Think about it. How many productivity apps, expensive planners, or time management tools have you tried that ultimately failed? The framework argues that these external tools always fail if internal acceptance isn't established first. Accepting the reality of what you are avoiding is the absolutely crucial prerequisite for any real, lasting transformation.
Step 4. Owning your missteps.
Since you're already in the practice of telling yourself the truth today, it's time to admit your mistakes. This means fully acknowledging wrong decisions, wrong directions, or toxic mindsets without making a single excuse and without shifting the blame onto anyone else. Look, everyone makes mistakes. Failing is just an entirely human experience. But the source material highlights that unsuccessful people often refuse to admit their faults. The biggest mistake a person can make isn't falling down. It's refusing to admit the real reason why they fell. Actually, scratch that. It's more like refusing to even look at the ground they tripped over. If we don't recognize the root cause of our missteps, we totally block ourselves from learning from them. Facing your mistakes today, right now, during this reset, isn't just about admitting them. It's about taking true ownership, forgiving yourself, and extracting the lesson for the future. Step 5. The 60-minute daily formula. And this brilliantly illustrates the next phase. You've done the heavy mental lifting, so now we need a highly practical routine. To maintain this new clarity, the framework introduces a perfectly balanced daily hour. You set a timer for 60 minutes. You reserve this 1 hour entirely for yourself. And ideally, this becomes a permanent part of your daily routine moving forward. You break this 60 minutes into 3 equal 20-minute chunks. First, 20 minutes for your body. Do some physical activity. Walk, stretch, climb stairs, just keep moving. The next 20 minutes are for your mind. Literally dump all your mental baggage on paper. Write down your overthinking, anger, confusion, or goals just to lighten your brain's load. And the final 20 minutes are for pure silence. No phone, just sitting quietly with yourself. It is during those final 20 minutes of pure silence that a stark realization usually hits. You will deeply feel the absolute truth of the statement. You are not too busy, you are just distracted. The noise of modern life creates this intense cognitive overload that makes us feel like we have absolutely zero time. We are constantly processing alerts, emails, and news feeds. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. But sitting in silence proves that this digital distraction, rather than a lack of hours in the day, is the real enemy. Stripping away that distraction is exactly where true clarity begins to surface. The 9 p.m. reality check.
Finally, we reached the end of our timeline. At 9 p.m. on your chosen day, you guide yourself back to that same mirror for the final grounding moment of your 24-hour reset. But this time, you aren't asking any heavy questions. You aren't reciting motivational lines. You simply look at yourself and acknowledge the difference between a perfect day and a real day. You tell yourself, today, I didn't run away. Today, I faced myself. You acknowledge that the day wasn't flawless. It wasn't perfect. But unlike most people who go their whole lives hiding behind fake personas without ever trying to understand themselves, you just lived one real, profoundly honest day. The framework presents this moment as the ultimate payoff. It's the incredible psychological relief that comes from facing your truth and finally meeting the real version of yourself. Now, one day won't permanently fix everything, obviously, but it gives you the absolute direction and clarity you need to start. So the framework leaves us with a final provocative question to ponder. Will you choose to live a real day or keep running from yourself? It's a challenging concept to put into practice, but the blueprint is right here. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.